At the beginning of the story, we see our main character, Takeru, who's just an ordinary guy. Every day he has to go to the office, work long hours, and then head back home. He starts saying that his life feels extremely boring. He goes to the same place to work, does the same tasks, comes back the same way. Everything in his ordinary life feels repetitive. He wishes his life were at least a little exciting. Right after saying this, Takeru turns on his TV, and suddenly he's transported to a completely different place. In front of him sits a man, and Takeru is shocked. He asks, "Who are you?" The man replies that he's the one who watches over the solar system, and Takeru can consider him a god. He manages the entire universe. He explains that no matter how hard he tries, the planet called Medius keeps collapsing. Its civilization is falling apart, and the situation is getting worse. That's why he needs to interfere directly now. He tells Takeru that he'll be sending him to that world so it can change for the better. Hearing this, Takeru is stunned. He asks how the god can just drop such a huge bombshell on him, but the god explains that Takeru doesn't have any other choice. He's already dead. If he refuses to go to this new world, his soul will simply disappear. But he doesn't need to worry. He won't be sent empty-handed. The god will give him gifts, special abilities. The god grants Takeru the power to use magic and asks if he wants anything else. Takeru says he wants a cute partner. The god notes that request and tells him he'll meet his partner when the time is right. He also boosts Takeru's scouting skills so he can collect materials and sell them for money. The god gives him a handy bag to store everything, teaches him the language of the new world, and grants him several resistances. After doing all this, the god realizes he may have given Takeru a bit too much power. Before Takeru can say anything, he disappears from that place and wakes up in his new body. He finds himself in a deep forest and decides the first thing he needs is to find a place where people actually live, like a village. After walking for a long time, he finally spots a village, but he then realizes he has no money. Without money, no one will let him stay there, so he decides to earn some first. He remembers the god telling him that collecting materials and selling them would give him money. So Takeru tries activating his scouting magic, but nothing happens. Embarrassed, he wonders why his power didn't activate. He tries another word, search, and this time his power finally activates. The search skill shows him where all the materials are located. Takeru now understands that the magic depends on the specific activation word. He tries other words like check, investigate, and scan. When he says scan, he can actually read the details of each material. His first material is a B-rank item. Soon he gathers everything he can find, though most of it turns out to be low rank. After collecting a large amount, he finally reaches the village. A guard stops him and asks if he's a warrior or a swordsman because of his tall height. Takeru says he's just there to sell materials. The guard introduces himself as Merlo and tells him that the village is called Tormi. He directs Takeru to a shop where he can sell everything. People stare at Takeru because of how tall he is. He reaches the shop and shows the shopkeeper the first material, a B-rank monster drop. The shopkeeper is shocked and offers him 5 silver coins for it. Takeru asks how much that actually is, and whether it's enough for a room at the inn. The shopkeeper explains that 1 night costs 500, and 1 silver coin equals 1,000. Takeru does the math and realizes his item is worth 30,000. He sells the item and shows the shopkeeper the rest of what he found. The shopkeeper is impressed and tells him he has a job for him. If Takeru can go to the eastern mountains and gather mithril ore, he'll pay him 2 million, but he warns him that the mountains are full of monsters. Later, Takeru gets a room at an inn. The staff brings him warm water, and he's confused about what to do with it. She explains that he's supposed to clean himself with it. He asks where the bath is, but she tells him there is no bath unless someone is a noble. Hearing this, Takeru becomes depressed. He's exhausted and wants a proper bath. She mentions that some mages can clean people with magic, but none live in this village. So an idea strikes him. After she leaves, Takeru decides to try using magic himself. He says clean, and the spell activates, washing him thoroughly with water. The next day, Takeru continues exploring. He finds a dead skeleton on the ground, someone who was clearly a security guard. He thinks the person must have died in a fight. Near the skeleton, he finds a family charm with a letter inside, written by the guard's sister. Feeling bad, Takeru buries the skeleton properly and lets him rest in peace. As night approaches, he draws a circle on the ground and activates a barrier around himself. Sitting inside it, he cooks his food and enjoys a peaceful meal. After that, Takeru arrives at the White Tree Forest. This place is also known as the Forest of Ancient Dragons. It's considered a danger zone where monsters often attack. Takeru starts collecting tons of materials there. He's so excited that he keeps running ahead, but suddenly he slips and falls into a ravine. He gets scared for a moment, but then he uses Fly. Thanks to that, he lands safely. After reaching the bottom, he finds even more materials and collects them, but he still hasn't found any mithril. When he uses Search, he realizes one ore vein is buried much deeper, so he uses magic to blast the area open and finally finds the ore. After that, he continues deeper, looking for more. But then, out of nowhere, he discovers glowing water. When he scans it, he finds out it's magic water from an ancient dragon's home, and it's double S rank. Takeru decides to collect it. He's in the middle of doing that when suddenly a massive dragon appears right in front of him. The dragon asks, "Who are you? How dare you disturb my sleep?" Even after seeing such a huge dragon, Takeru doesn't panic. He simply apologizes for entering without permission. The dragon is surprised and asks who he is. Takeru tells him his name and that he's a human. The dragon says he senses an enormous amount of magic coming from him, magic as strong as his own. Takeru asks if he's an ancient dragon. The dragon confirms this and says his name is Valadius. Then he says he wants to test Takeru's power. With that strength, he might be able to revive his child. Because of all the mana in this place, the egg hasn't been able to hatch. Valadius asks for Takeru's help and promises to reward him with magic mithril ore. Then he hands Takeru the egg. Takeru gets confused and asks what he's supposed to do with it. Valadius tells him to pour his magic into the egg. Takeru agrees and begins channeling his magic, but the egg suddenly starts draining a huge amount of mana from him. Takeru struggles, realizing he might die. Valadius laughs while watching him, making Takeru panic even more. Just when he thinks he's done for, Takeru suddenly finds himself in a completely different place. A god is standing in front of him, but he looks different from the one he met earlier. This god tells him he's too careless. Normally when people see a dragon, they faint or run for their lives. But Takeru didn't do that. By acting like this, he has changed the laws of the world itself. The god says he had been trying for thousands of years to bring change to this world, but Takeru managed to create change almost immediately. It seems the other god gave him incredibly powerful blessings. Then he reminds Takeru that he asked for a cute partner. He'll get her soon, but she's also going to be a big problem for him. In the next moment, Takeru wakes up. He sees the egg has finally hatched. A baby dragon crawls out and immediately hugs him. Valadius tells Takeru to name the child. Takeru thinks for a moment and names him B. B likes the name, and Valadius agrees it suits him. Valadius then tells B to go explore the world. B joins Takeru's party. Takeru is shocked and asks Valadius why he's sending his son with him. Valadius says he trusts Takeru because his power is even greater than his own. After placing a special enchantment on Takeru's bag, he leaves. B then gives Takeru the mithril ore as promised. Takeru asks if B wants to join him on his journey collecting materials. B says yes. Takeru agrees but says they need to clean up first. He uses his magic to clean B. They both leave the cave. Since night is approaching, Takeru decides to camp nearby. We then learn that Valadius connected Takeru's bag to the underground lake, so he can take the magic water anytime. He gives B the water since it's important for B's growth. At B's request, Takeru drinks some too. Takeru explains that he bought an encyclopedia earlier, and that magic stones are incredibly valuable, but he discovers he can actually create magic stones with his bare hands. Later, he cooks the same meal he made before. B tastes it and loves it, hugging Takeru out of excitement. Takeru checks B's stats and sees that even though he's a B-rank dragon with many skills, he's still just a child who needs to learn properly. He warns B not to do anything reckless. The next day, they continue their journey. Takeru returns to the same forest he visited the previous night. It doesn't look nearly as scary during the day. He starts collecting more materials, but suddenly B gets scared and hides behind him because several monsters appear. Takeru prepares to fight, but then a rock falcon, a C-rank monster, swoops in behind the others. Takeru creates a barrier and launches ice attacks, easily defeating the falcon. Then several serpent wolves, also C-rank, jump out of the bushes. They attack, but Takeru lightens his body to dodge their strikes, then hardens his body and defeats them all with ease. He begins collecting their meat. Just then, they notice even more monsters approaching. B panics and tries to fly Takeru away, but he can't hold him properly. so Takeru lightens himself again, and they shoot up into the air. But B